What's up, guys? Hold on one second and let me share this on Twitter so um, more people come in. I hope. Live. Thanks, Joseph. Much appreciated. Obviously, I haven't done too much with that yet, but I need to add the hurricanes, and probably another Panther video. But appreciated, Joseph. Hang. Hold. I'm definitely not going to say no. To Yamamoto, I don't know about him, but I know he's one of the younger pitchers, so I think it would work in terms of years and money. So yeah, I think I'm all for it, and I'm all for adding the way we have and the roster subtraction as well. I mean, the emotional side of it is a little hard to take, as always, because as sports fans, you kind of get attached. But I think it's the right move. It's something that I've never seen before. From any team, let alone the Braves. But it's the aggressive mentality is something. It's fun, and it's a little nerve wracking to see what's gonna happen, but it's also really fun, especially how good we were last year and it just kind of fall flat. And it's a little that's a little annoying. So I like this approach, and Alex Anthopoulos doing a lot of deals early is par for the course for him. With he's able to set the market and get really good values, which I like very much. So yeah, I would welcome Yamamoto with open arms. You just have a little PTSD in terms of the only other Japan pitcher we went after is Kinshin Kawakami, and that didn't go so well. So we'll see. I mean, I'm gonna welcome any addition with open arms, and honestly wait and see, because there's so many stories and things that happen in spring training. You argue about the last roster spot, and then somebody new takes it in like 3 or 4 days. So, but I like the way the roster is constructed, that we don't need too much. But it's so that's my take on that. And I'm trying to get this thing. Yeah, Ronaldo Lopez. I love the value, especially if we're able to work magic. If we're able to work magic and he somehow becomes a starting pitcher, that's incredible value. But if not, you strengthen what's already a strength for your bullpen, and you have incredible depth in the bullpen, and he can do multiple innings, and you have depth in your bullpen not only this year, but years down the road with possible free agencies leaving, free agency pieces leaving. So you still have the amazing depth that you want to have in the bullpen as well. And 188 average against on his fastball. That gives you the warm fuzzies. Plus the 99 to 102. Kind of Spencer Strider like, so maybe they can connect and help each other out. Because the metrics on Lopez's fastball are very similar to Strider's, so that probably plays a factor as well. But you can never have enough pitching, and when you think you do, you need more. And a versatile starting pitcher or a versatile pitcher definitely doesn't grow on trees. And from where I sit, that looks awesome, and I can't wait to see what it ends up happening. So Ronaldo Lopez very happy. For sure, definitely on that. The only trade that I'm not quite sure of is the Jackson Kohar trade from the Royals. I'm not saying that I don't agree that maybe moving on from Wright was a good idea, because his shoulder and shoulders are very finicky. But Jackson Kohar, I don't know. There's a lot of walks, a high ERA. We hate walks. The high ERA is scary. So I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what that brings, except definitely salary relief. Not necessarily this year, but definitely next year, for sure, and beyond. I just don't know if Jackson Kohar is gonna play into the plans, because I think he only has one option. Yeah, Waldrop's probably a factor, and so is AJ Smith-Shawver. But with the potential of Max Fried leaving, you still need a Sonny Gray, I can't think, Yamamoto, a frontline starting pitcher to pair with Spencer Strider if Max Fried leaves, because I'm guessing Charlie Morton, this will be his last year as well. Just a guess on that. So I think starting pitching is going to be crucial to still get a Seth Lugo, maybe a Michael Wacha. Those are nice pieces to fill out a rotation, especially with the depth that we've created in the pen. So yeah, Waldrop, AJ Smith-Shawver definitely factors next year. I don't know exactly where Owen Murphy stands in our farm system at this point. That could be an interesting guy to look at. I mean, Darius Vines had some good moments last year. Bryce Elder's probably at this point our number 5, which is fine. But I think again, the need for a frontline ace to pair with Spencer Strider, pending on what happens with Max Fried free agency next year. So I think that's going to be very important. It's going to be interesting to see what left field what the left field ideal what the left field situation is, because I don't know that I love Von Grisham, and you can't necessarily keep 330 down in the minor leagues because he's proven he's definitely proven that he can hit. It's just a little curious that we didn't try Von Grisham in left field when we had EY as our outfield instructor, because he's one of the best in the league. So it'll be interesting to see that dynamic. Also, the last time Alex Anthopoulos said we didn't need a position catcher, we ended up acquiring Sean Murphy. So I think you always take things that a GM says with a grain of salt. That's the Dodgers definitely didn't have the starting pitching at all. So that's the thing, and I'm sure they'll sure that up because they always do. But I think both of us as teams missed opportunities. But again, that's why the playoffs are such a crapshoot, and I think that it would benefit that all of the series are 7 games, just because 5-game series are such who's hot and who's not. And the reality is of the MLB playoffs, that's the entire reality. But I think you get your best foot forward if if all the series were 7 games. It's an equal opportunity thing. It's just my opinion. And honestly, I don't know how long Dave Roberts' leash is. Just because there's a lot of moves that you just go, playoffs wise, the last few years, and the Dodgers are always in it, but I don't know. They just have, except 2020, haven't been able to really get over the hump. So I don't know. Of course, it depends on the off season and how you guys shake out that way. But that's just my opinion on the Dodgers. The Braves bullpen is probably one of the best I've seen. And I think, again, jumping on the market early with Jimenez and Johnson at relatively cheap values, 22 for 14 for Pierce, and 3 for 26 with Joe. I really like it. and I think he'll be able to settle into a better role. Not coming off spinal surgery, and this depth of pen will hopefully avoid the overextending a Bryce Elder in a playoff game type of thing, and maybe it'll keep our starters a little fresher, depending on the starters and what goes on in the rest of the offseason. And the addition of Aaron Bummer is really awesome, considering you've got 4 lefties, which is unique in its own right, but 2 of them are coming off injury. So that is also important to have some more depth there and quality depth. And I know his numbers didn't necessarily jump off the page, but they're also the White Sox, and they've struggled mightily over the last handful of years. And I do like what Chris Getz is doing, but I think they're a couple of years away. They may be able to surprise. To surprise a little bit, and I'm really happy that Michael Soroka is getting a fresh start and a new opportunity. I just hope he can stay healthy, because he's just been snake bit, and see what happens there. But I really appreciate that. If the fact that we had to use so many starting pitchers last year, I think it was able to show us who is part of the future and who is not. Jared Schuster, Michael Soroka, Kyle Wright. And I believe Kyle Wright was just the mere injury of it all, because shoulders are so unpredictable and finicky, and Michael Soroka just couldn't find a rhythm with us at all. And I hate it, because he was so good before the injuries. But I really appreciate the aggressive nature of it all, because it all makes sense when you break it down. I think the only one I questioned was the Jackson Kohar thing, just because I'm not sure. We got a piece that could help, but maybe he's probably going to be the best piece, or one of the best pieces we get, because I said that, but because of the uncertainty. And the other one, Nicky Lopez, just because we have no infield depth right now. So that was a little disheartening, because we don't really have a lot of versatility, especially if you're talking about using Vaughn Grisham in left field. That's a struggle a little bit. But $4 million, because we pretty much go with the standard lineup every single night, unless we decide to platoon left field again. I guess $4 million is easier to save that way, but I'm definitely gonna miss Nicky's defense. Eduardo Rodriguez would be nice. Again, I'm not gonna shy away from any signing that we do at all, especially starting pitcher wise, because Rick Kranitz has been very, very, very solid, seemingly getting the best out of everybody, and just kind of having the magic words and the magic touch when they're trying to figure things out. So definitely on board with Eduardo Rodriguez as well. I'm intrigued by Seth Lugo. That would be awesome to me. for sure, especially the amount of good curveballs we already have in our rotation. That would be great. But obviously, we all know that Alex Anthopoulos, it's probably somebody that's not even on our radar. I doubt that we'll trade for Tyler Glasnow, who's been rumored about. Realistic dream signings. Yamamoto for us would be awesome. Ohtani really doesn't fit because he won't be able to pitch until 2025. And DH is already filled. I would really like Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I know that's not a flashy name, but I like him for left field for us. But again, Alex Anthopoulos is so hard to read in terms of it's always a guy that none of us are expecting, and then when we read it, it feels really good for the most part. That's like the Ronaldo Lopez signing. It was on a few people's radars that might be a idea, but it wasn't necessarily on mine. And so Alex Anthopoulos, I trust for sure. So but Yamamoto and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. would be awesome for me. And we were a huge player in the Aaron Nola sweepstakes, apparently. So it tells me that we're going to be super aggressive. So I definitely wouldn't count out anything at all. And that's the great thing about Alex Anthopoulos and what he does. It'll be really interesting to see it'll be really interesting to see what happens at third and first base for us, because obviously losing Ron Washington to LA Angels, that's really tough. And EY, both, that's hard. I've heard Willie Harris. I thought of like Eric Hinsky at first base, possibly. So that'll be very interesting. But of course, your dream pairing would be Yamamoto and Ohtani for the Dodgers, because they always seem to be able to print money, for sure. So dream big, why not? And we'll see how it plays out for sure. Blake Snell's an interesting one for me too, because he's so great, but the walk rate, and we really, really, really don't like walks. That's why the Jackson Kohar thing is a little confusing to me in terms of the player we got back. But again, I'm not going to knock it until I see it, and a lot of things change drastically in terms of believing in spring numbers versus what actually happens when the bell rings. So, but I think it's always fun to see how everything plays out and what other teams do for sure. Couple of names that went off the board today. Lance Lynn was yesterday. 1 year, $10 million plus an option for the St. Louis Cardinals, and 1 year, $12 million for Kyle Gibson today. That's great for them, but Kyle Gibson has the bummer trade. That's because Alex Anthopoulos did it at That's because Alex Anthopoulos did that one at midnight. That's why a lot of people were thrown off, because apparently Alex Anthopoulos never sleeps. Yeah, Lance Lynn, I can't believe he got that much. As much homers as he gave up, or as many homers as he gave up. Sorry on the grammar there. But yeah, I think it all told comes to 24 million with the option. But Kyle Gibson, definitely a veteran innings eater, but that definitely doesn't put the St. Louis Cardinals over the top by any means. So, what's up, Chris? Thank you. Yeah, yeah. So it doesn't. Those two signings are good for depth purposes for St. Louis, and maybe Lance Lynn can recoup some magic that he had with St. Louis, or at least limit the home run ball, and that would be good for him. But they're depth pieces, but I don't think they move the needle for the Cardinals, and that is what 22 million in I think that's right math. 22 million in two pieces, and they're older veteran type of pieces, so it's not a cornerstone whatsoever there, but good for them, I guess. For sure, I'm gonna go with that. The Aaron Nola thing, I would have loved to have him, but and 24.5 million isn't a bad per year for a pitcher, but Aaron Nola hasn't been, at least last year, was consistently inconsistent for him with a 4.49 ERA, so that's not necessarily. It would have been probably a really good fit with us, because he loved Rick Kranitz when Rick Kranitz was with Philly. So that could have been a really good fit, but and it's the 11th biggest free agent contract, 11th for a pitcher, so that is a lot. And plus, he's going into his age 31 season. And yes, I know I think according to reports, 27.6 was ours. So again, that's a lot more than we're used to investing in starters, especially free agents. But again, it just shows that the Braves are going for it, and I'm very happy about that. Acuna winning the unanimous MVP is absolutely awesome. And then him going to Winter League Ball and hitting a homer that same night is peak MVP status, and Acuna is absolutely incredible. So glad he's in a Braves uniform. And happy for Ohtani as well, because what he did and continues to do is insane. And but the craziest stat thing is the Angels have won 5 of the last 10 MVPs in the AL and haven't made the playoffs once. So baseball is the magical sport that doesn't one player doesn't equal the team, whereas sometimes that is the case in other sports. And I think that's the beauty, but I think also the crazy part about it is Acuna is going to get better, and you would almost think, how is that possible? But it is, I believe. And it's going to be amazing to watch. That's why I don't call the 2023 season a disappointment. Yes, was it a overall disappointment? Probably, but getting to watch Ronald Acuna Jr. do what he did every single night, that's a pure joy, and we're always going to watch those highlights. And Matt Olson going to the mountaintop on Braves history. There's so much to love about the 2023 season, and that's why yes, was it a disappointment? Yeah, but it's not an overall disappointment, and I think it may help us down the line because yeah, we won the 2021 World Series unexpectedly, and that's awesome. But you always learn from your scars, and you learn from the roster construction and everything. So back-to-back years being axed by the Phillies might have lit a fire, a more fire under Alex Anthopoulos to be aggressive with the roster purge, as it were. And I think it was more aggressive than we've ever seen, but it's also something that that was fun and seemingly necessary just to kind of switch things up and keep us competitive for as long as possible. And I think the way he's done it is very, very, very keen and sharp. And the funny thing is, we don't have really a plush farm system at all, but we're still able to find great value. And even in the trades that we make, we seemingly don't give up substantial value and end up ahead of it. Even if it's only a little bit, we still end up ahead of it. And the seemingly aggressive nature, because we still have 9 roster spots to fill, is something that is going to be really fun, and I'm really excited for. And yes, it's a different side of Alex Anthopoulos, but again, those things kind of happen when you have some scars that you don't necessarily like. And for the record, 4 of the top 7 MVP vote getters were Braves. So, and we still have that, and they're under contract for a long, long while. So I do not believe that window is closing at all. And I am very, very, very grateful for that. The managerial cycle, I believe, I think everybody was I think the last spot was filled. Mike Schilt going to the Padres. The 2-year deal is a little interesting. That's 0 job security, but I mean, I think Ron Washington got a 2-year deal, probably more for his age than anything. In LA, Steven Vogt is going to be interesting with the Guardians, given that division isn't necessarily the most powerful. So you could see the Guardians surprise people, and I love Steven Vogt and what he did for the Braves in the 2021 run. Clubhouse-wise, veteran-wise, he just seems to get it. So that's going to be an interesting thing to follow. Pat Murphy getting the job with Milwaukee. I think he was an interim manager for someone, if I'm not mistaken, recently. So that's good for him, and I think they're trending towards a rebuild. So that's probably a good thing that they've got some internal guy to run that that knows the organization and players there as well. So that's an interesting one because I think they're teetering on tear it completely down or continue. I wouldn't put it past Alex Anthopoulos. He like I said earlier, he likes to get some of his shopping done early, and we've already added one, two, Pierce Johnson, Jimenez, Bummer, and Lopez. That's 4 moves, and I think every other team's made a move here or there, but nothing of significance. So I wouldn't be surprised. But I also wouldn't be surprised if we had to wait a little bit because the winter meetings aren't until December 4th. So that could be a thing where things are starting to move, but starting pitching dominoes are kind of starting to fall a little bit. So maybe some more action before Thanksgiving for sure, maybe. Not just from the Braves, but from overall perspective. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on that. But it'll be interesting to see how we fill up the depth in the infield and outfield. Paul DeYoung signed a 1-year deal with the Chicago White Sox. He's bounced around a lot. He's a good versatility piece, kind of. And that's an interesting middle infield with Nicky Lopez and Paul DeYoung now. But I think the White Sox may be a couple of years away. But again, in the AL, in the AL Central, who knows what will happen there. Oh, also, Brad Ausmus was named the bench coach for the Yankees. That's interesting. I think he's better in a coaching staff role than he is a manager. Just an opinion because it didn't really work out in Detroit. And Los Angeles Angels, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So that's an interesting one there. I think the Carlos Mendoza signing for the New York Mets is more of a stopgap, to be honest, because I think if they're seriously considering trading Pete Alonso, they'll be a few years away, 25, 26, to be honest and competitive wise, because they pretty much just bought a lot of prospects to get rid of Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander at the deadline. And I think, Joseph, we might see minor moves for the Braves or one big one. I don't know. But I feel like minor moves are a possibility because 9 roster spots are a lot to fill. I know it's only November, but that can sneak up on you fast. But I think I don't know if there was. And obviously, a lot of pundits have us signing Sonny Gray, which he's 34, which might work because the money per year would be lower and the contract to be shorter, but he has a long, extensive injury history as well, so that'll be an interesting story to follow. And stuff is leaked out a little bit more than we're used to, so who knows if any of those sources are actually true. Our stuff, but I'm always on my guard with Alex Anthopoulos because things come out of nowhere, and that's the beauty of what he does. I hope a contract extension for him comes down the line because I think this is his last year of the contract. So hopefully he gets a contract extension himself, even though he's probably only worried about building this team and putting the puzzle pieces together. He's a large piece of the puzzle, so we cannot let him get away unless he retires only. So that'll be an interesting storyline to follow as well. But again, I think maybe a third base coach or first base coach move prior to Thanksgiving, but it is Thursday, and it's only Tuesday, so there's a lot of time between now and then, and Alex Anthopoulos likes to check things off pretty quickly. I'm not exactly sure what the Padres are going to do. I think they're a wild card for the offseason. I think definitely Juan Soto gets traded, but I don't know if it's this offseason or trade deadline, but I really think with their financial issues and the sudden death of their owner, rest in peace, it's kind of in flux. Even that organization is definitely in flux with the departure of Melvin to go to San Francisco, and the having to get a loan to pay their players. That's never a good sign, and you got a lot of large contracts that you're not going to be able to easily get out of. I honestly think Juan Soto may be experiencing buyer's remorse. He probably would have been better off signing that what was it, $400 million deal with Washington, because I think Washington is closer to being really competitive, and that would have been a cornerstone. And yeah, and I think Washington did a nice job in that trade. And I just think Juan Soto is putting too much pressure on himself in San Diego, and it's not the personality and it clashes. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis, all of those names and things of that nature. So I think San Diego's in a weird spot. They'll be an interesting team to watch. I wonder if the Orioles are too, because I think they have so many great young pieces throughout their team. I think it would be a disservice if they didn't add this offseason. Yeah, those are, and obviously the Brewers I've talked about a little bit. I think they're interesting, and that there could be a lot of activity in terms of trade there. Tyler Glasnow, I mentioned earlier, likely to get traded. That could be a winter meetings type of move, but he would scare the bejesus out of me because, no pun intended, he's been made of glass with his injury issues over the last 3-4 years. Great pitcher, just not completely dependable. But the Rays are definitely a team to watch because they always do interesting kind of strange moves, but they end up still being relevant in terms of the playoff races every year, and find a superstar that no one knows is a superstar until the Rays work their magic. So that'll be interesting to watch. They're always Jonathan India will likely be traded, not sure where, with the enormity of young prospect depth that the Cincinnati Reds have brought up. Encarnacion Strand, De La Cruz, Matt McLean, and they've got some other guys coming up through the pipeline as well. So they could be a hungry, interesting team to watch as well. Joey Votto's free agency is upon us, and we'll see if he ends up back in Cincinnati or somewhere else. If he ends up somewhere else, I hope it's somewhere where he gets a chance to win, because I love Joey Votto. I love what he's done for the game of baseball overall, and just his love and passion and truth telling of baseball is a fun one. I think the Mariners owe their fan base to be able to be a little more aggressive in their offense, because their pitching is so good. So I think they should be active. Whether they are or not, I don't know, but they should be. St. Louis Cardinals, yeah, they added Lynn and Gibson, but it'll be interesting to see if they deal any of their young studs at all or not, to add to their starters. So we will see there as well. I think I covered everything. Let's see. I think I covered absolutely everything. If I didn't, or you have any other questions or topics, let me know. But Alex Anthopoulos has certainly kept us busy and kept us entertained and kept us thinking and interested about how this offseason is going to fully play out. But I'm super excited on the additions that we have made, and interested to see what roles everybody play. But the great part about it is the depth of our bullpen, A+. Our lineup the way it is, you love it. There could be more depth there, but again, the seemingly aggressive nature of what Alex Anthopoulos has done just gives you the warm and fuzzies, and makes you really excited about the possibilities. And we are only this November 21st. So that there's a lot of dominoes to fall, and it's going to be very, very fun to see even other teams' moves and how everything works out, and the surprise teams that happen, and the wild cards and all that stuff coming down. But again, 9 roster spots to fill, and a lot of more moving parts that we're gonna see, and it's gonna be really, really, really exciting. But and I'll have you all covered. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button. Helps out a lot. Have a great Thanksgiving, and if moves come down the pipe, you will be able to find the instant reaction on my channel. So make sure you got the notifications on. Helps out a lot. And enjoy your Thanksgiving. Be safe, be happy, be healthy, and I will talk to you guys probably next Tuesday. I'll try to make this a regular thing. Last off season it was Monday, but Tuesday seems like a good day, and I'll make sure to cover every team here in the CassMac chat and my opinions. So you can look forward to that consistently this off season. But again, thanks guys. As always, Braves champions forever.